that you have to be everywhere. Oh, I have to be on Facebook. I got to be on Reddit. I got to be on Twitter and TikTok and Instagram and LinkedIn. And they all, it can feel very intimidating when you think, okay, especially for a solo developer, I'm developing this game. I'm a creator. That's what I do, but I might not be. So I think it really just falls down to knowing your audience and knowing what platforms they're on. Where are they communicating? Where are they engaging? And just start there. You can just start with a few platforms at first if you're new and just trying to start to build your brand from a social media standpoint. And then I think the second big one is you hear a lot, depending on the platform, but like you need to be posting every day and sometimes multiple times per day. And like people think, okay, then I just have to be like constantly churning things out. But I think what's more important than frequency is just having like quality content, right? You don't have to post every day if you don't have something to say or something great to share. Don't be hard on yourself about that. It's the quality stuff, I think, that will get your community to keep building and get the people there to engage.
I completely agree with you there, Sarah, because it can be such a waste of time and resources to be churning out content to a space where nobody is interested. So definitely when you're starting out a social media strategy, it's so important to think, where are my audience? As you were saying, like, where should I focus my time? And I think another, thinking from like a B2B perspective, another common social media myth is that LinkedIn can't be fun. I appreciate that LinkedIn is a social media platform for professionals. I get that. But professionals are still people. You don't need to adopt this overused LinkedIn tone of voice. You can be playful and still come across as reputable on that platform without leaning into this LinkedIn-ness. Like you can still be professional.
I believe it's journalist facing just as much as somebody looking for investment, just to have that presence. As you've said, Tamsin, LinkedIn's changed a lot over the years. I know in the office here, we consistently see people posting about things they've seen on LinkedIn and thinking perhaps people aren't using it correctly, which for an example might be going into great detail about the personal life and then trying to tenuously that back to business. So we've talked about maybe not posting too much. I think that also goes, don't go into too much detail about your personal life if it's not relevant for your community. Do they need to know that?
It's so true.
So that could be like a fine balance too, right? Because there are like some platforms where I don't know, like TikTok or Instagram, where like face content is much more like appealing and gets more traction than like just like a gameplay clip kind of a thing. We tend to struggle with that. Okay, how much do we share? How much do we hold back? Now, generally, we err on the side of caution always, which is good. But yeah,
Definitely an interesting one for this game dev specific conversation, because as we'll dive into what worked and what didn't work for Kristalla, you folks had quite a hefty development process, and part of that was outlaying what the roadmap looks like. And so some devs like going quite behind the scenes and introducing themselves, and we've just talked about faces there, putting faces on who's behind the game and who isn't. So what did you folks find worked for Kristalla, and perhaps with the game still very much in process, might you want to do that you haven't done yet? Or vice versa, what have you not going to touch again?
I'll probably say this like a ton of times during this chat, but it really does depend on the platform. Like I always tell people who are just getting into the marketing space or whatever to forget what you think you know and let the data speak, because like sometimes I'll work really hard on a very like polished and beautiful gameplay compilation that I'll be like, this is going to do really well on Twitter/X, which has a huge gaming community there. And then like I'll post it and it'll flop, but then I'll share like a very rudimentary shot of just like white box assets set up, and we're showing off a new four-legged traversal skill very early in progress, and then that takes off and does super well. So for us, it was definitely a lot of testing different content on different platforms. I think people really do. The beauty of being an indie developer is that I think you can have more of a conversation with your audience. I feel like a lot of AAA studios and developers feel like these mysterious, secretive entities that like don't interface a lot with the community. And so we've really tried to adopt the exact opposite of that. Responding, engaging, just being present, and inviting people not only into our development process, but also just into the conversation. If they want to know us as human beings, we're happy to share to an extent, like we were talking about earlier. I think just being there and being available has really helped us a lot. And as far as what hasn't worked, again, that depends on platform too. Like before, we used to just share, let's say, strictly gameplay content on TikTok, and then the content is performing abysmally, and we're like, what's going on? And then we share a silly meme using a trending sound and showing one of our faces, and it takes off. Do that testing process. And we've been in development with Kristalla since 2018. So we've had quite a bit of time to do that testing, which then really helps when you come up on an initial launch or a big milestone that you're reaching, to then be like, okay, I have a bit more of a targeted approach to what I'm going to share on each different platform.
I think that's what can make social media so difficult, is because, like you said, Sarah, you do have to do testing. It's not there's some magical cheat code that you can use to go viral or get metric success. You have to work out what works for not only your platform, but the social media accounts that you're managing. So yeah, it is tricky to work out, but it's so rewarding when you do find something like that works for my brands. We're going to go down that avenue. So yeah, rewarding, but hard sometimes.
We were talking about myths earlier, and I think sometimes people will be like, okay, this day and this time will yield good success, for you on whatever platform. And that's a whole other beast. Like we'll share something on a Saturday afternoon and it just totally tanks, but then Tuesday night, it does great, So that's like a whole other piece of the puzzle in the mix. That's like, what kind of content, what time, hashtag, all of it is like a little puzzle, and marketing nerds like us might really love that. But I know, especially those solo developers, like I was talking about, I'm sure it can be difficult.